Okay, well, thank you so much for having me today. My name is Séverine, and I'm the Antonine Wall Project Development Officer on the Antonine Wall. Today, I'll be giving you an update on where the project is. It's our final stretch of the Rediscovering the Antonine Wall project. So just to set the scene, I'm employed by the Antonine Wall Steering Group. We are based at Western Bartonshire Council. If you have attended previous presentations, you will have heard about our project and the aim to raise awareness about the Antonine Wall in the 5 local authorities where the wall runs through. So the idea today is to update you on this progress, especially through the last 2 years of COVID and how we have adapted to it. The main focus today will be how we reached out to very different communities and how we engage with them and try to get all the aims of the project ticked off before the end, which will be in November, and then new adventures will start. So the first few slides will be a kind of a recap. And if you have attended our last conferences, you probably have heard about it already, but for our newcomers, the Antonine Wall is Rome's most northern frontier, and we are part of the Frontiers of the Roman Empire World Heritage Site, which includes Hadrian's Wall and the German Limes. The Antonine Wall is not as well known as its southern counterparts, and in particular Hadrian's Wall. When I tell people I work for Antonine Wall, we're still told that, oh, Hadrian's Wall, and people don't know about the most northern part. So the project was really needed to raise that awareness. Since its inscription as a World Heritage Site in 2008, 6 partner organizations have jointly managed protection and promotion of the wall, the 5 local authorities, along with Historic Environment Scotland. There has always been a name amongst partners to raise awareness of the wall, and in 2019, the National Lottery Heritage Fund granted funding for 2.1 million. And the project was called Rediscovering the Antonine Wall, to enable the partners to improve awareness and relevance of the monument to local communities living along its length. Communities have been asked what they would like to see in the areas through extensive consultation process. And throughout the project, we have always asked them what they wanted, and we're very lucky that the lottery let us adapt to the demands of the communities as we went along. So the project was not set in stone in 2019, but it has adapted, and thankfully with the pandemic, it was even more important that we could adapt. The wall runs through a very diverse landscape of urban, post-industrial, semi-rural and rural settlements, some with very high levels of deprivation, and as a result, very hard to reach audiences. But I think we have managed for now to reach those audiences, and I will show you how. Now, for those who don't know, the Antonine Wall is here at the top. So we are a very small part of the much larger Roman frontier. It was occupied for just over 20 years in the middle of the 2nd century and built under the orders of Emperor Antoninus Pius, the successor of Emperor Hadrian, who just celebrated his birthday yesterday. It's a relatively short time after its completion that the wall was abandoned, and the troops retreated south to Hadrian's Wall and then stayed for a couple hundred of years there. So this is also why Hadrian's Wall is much bigger, much easier to recognize that our wee wall that actually now looks more like a ditch. But the Romans sporadically came back up and occupied some of the forts, but never really established themselves like they did in Britain. It's still a very interesting site. And one of the challenges is that it runs through one of the most heavily populated parts of Scotland, the Central Belt, which means that quite often the wall is hidden in people's backyards and has been completely remodeled. So it can be really difficult to see. in the landscape. It stretches from Bo'ness, if I put my little pointer up. For those not familiar with Scotland, Bo'ness is here. Edinburgh is just outside the map here. So from Bo'ness to Old Kilpatrick, all the way on the other side, with the city of Glasgow just here. So it runs here all the way through. It runs through, as I said, through 5 local authorities, and any project therefore needs to benefit all 5 areas equally, despite distinct geographical differences. So Western Bartonshire here is on the fringe of metropolitan Glasgow, so it's very populated, whereas Eastern Bartonshire in the middle is very rural, and Falkirk is very post-industrial. So it's quite different landscapes, very different populations too. So it is, our aim is to show that through the wall you can actually unite and create a link between those very different landscapes and communities. Second challenge is that this is a non-visual monument. It doesn't have this big impressive wall. It doesn't have the big impressive camps like Hadrian's Wall is. So for those who are on Hadrian's Wall, you'll be very familiar with that. The sites are very diverse. They can be very urban. Here that's Bearsden Bathhouse. So right in the middle of the city. The camp was actually on the other side, and the road you see here is Roman Road, the military way. Here you have that's Watling Lodge. Here you have Seabags, and here you have Bar Hill in the snow just a few weeks ago. Those sites are open and free to access, but some have long walks and often very steep incline, given that forts were built on the best defensive and vantage points in the area. Interpretation on the sites has improved in recent years and is continuing to be improved as a result of the project. However, because there were not that many remains, it makes it very difficult for general visitors to understand the sites. There is also no recognized walking route or Antonine Wall trail, and some forts are in private ownership, so you cannot walk the wall like you do on Hadrian's Wall. But this is something we'll be working on in the future. So it's difficult for local communities and visitors to really fully appreciate the monument, and this remains a challenge, but it makes it even more essential that we raise the awareness. Third challenge is engaging with everyone. The wall runs through some of the most deprived communities in Scotland, as can be seen here on the map. There is a clear correlation between engagement with the asset and levels of deprivation evident through our consultation process. Many local communities are not very actively engaged with the wall, although it lies on their doorstep. That has actually changed a bit in the past 2 years, thanks to the pandemic, when people only could go outside just in front in a very small area. So a lot of people have rediscovered the Antonine Wall, because that was the only place they could go. But it is very difficult to reach out to everyone and to create activities or that would appeal to some of the population. But I think we managed to do that. So the first part in proposing solution was undertaking extensive community consultation. There were 15 events across the local authority areas, in addition to online consultations. We strongly believe that all the elements of the project should be co-designed and co-curated with local communities. So all ideas that came forward were taken on board, and they were taken on board during the project too. So some of the things I will show you were actually suggested in 2020 during our last big in-person conference. And for that, we're really lucky that the lottery accepted that we sometimes change the scope of our projects a bit. But after the first consultations, the main needs that were identified by the communities were ones you can see here. So first, 5 Roman-themed play facilities, and those were created in consultation with local primary kids. 5 replica Roman distance stones, so on the model of the one that is already there in Boness, and every local authority got either a replica or brand new modern one, and community projects co-designed with local communities. In general, our project has those main capital project, and then play parks, murals and things, and then those community projects that sometimes actually arch over the entire wall. Now, the main question was, of course, who do we want to engage with and how do we do that? And when asking who do we want to engage with, we realized that actually we want to engage with everyone, because it's young people, new Scots, and that's asylum seekers and refugees, local community groups that sometimes are already very much engaged in the local history. They have tons of ideas and want to be involved, and then locals and visitors. So in the end, it is everyone, but each of those groups is very different. It's more different. It can be difficult to approach them, to find an entry point and maybe make them speak together. So with that in mind, we designed projects that were appealing to each group, but then in the end would bring everyone together. One thing we did at the beginning was Marcus. So Marcus started out as this little chap that we actually got from Hadrian's Wall, and I know Carrie is very jealous. And he became our little mascot. Marcus has been on many adventures over the past few years, and he was named after a public poll. So on social media, we posted pictures and we asked people how he should be named. Marcus won in the end, and then end of 2020, we worked with designer Paul Bourne to create a cartoon version of Marcus that is a bit easier to use on documents, and he is depicted doing several things. So here you see him cooking on one of the African style pots in the brazier that was found actually at Beersden. So you can see him in action here. He is pouring wine on a distant stone. We use him in social media all the time. Here's an example of our advent calendar. So that was box 1. You will see him in all our outreach material. This is a cutout at the exhibition, so he points away. And the last picture, you can see all the new Marcus on one of our interactives. It also helps when we engage with very young people. So in the next few weeks, I'll have to go to primary schools to do outreach. So it's Marcus who will be the voice of the Antonine Wall. His real voice is also at Kirkintilloch Play Park now, encouraging kids to play and train as Roman soldiers. So he has been very important for us to be the face of the Antonine Wall and make it maybe more fun and accessible for the young kids. Another thing that came out of our conference Women on the Wall just before the pandemic was that all the finds and objects on the Antonine Wall were very interesting, but you couldn't really relate to them. We don't have as many as on other sites, but it was difficult for people to imagine the life of the people on the wall. We also had this list of all the names we found on altars, on gravestones, and sometimes scratched in on everyday life objects. So we decided to give those people faces so that visitors could relate a bit more with them. We worked again with the same artist who did Marcus, and here we have some of them. So obviously we have Antoninus, and although he never came to Scotland, but it was of course, important to have him. We have here Quintus Lollius Urbicus, who was governor of Britain at the time and oversaw the building of the wall. And it was important for us to reflect his origins, to show the diversity on the Antonine Wall. So people often think that all the Romans came from Rome, but no, they came from all over the Roman Empire. Publicus Maternus was the commander at Old Kilpatrick. Nectavilius was an auxiliary soldier in a cohort that came originally from Bulgaria, but he was actually from Yorkshire, from the Brigantes tribe. He sadly died on the Antonine Wall, and we have his tombstone. And Quintus was the commander, the prefect, coming from Gaul and was based at Castle Hill. But he is here depicted more in his civilian dress. So again, we worked with specialists of Roman clothing to show all the different aspects of uniforms and clothing. We were also interested in other people, maybe not just the soldiers. We were quite often asked about the women and the children. So the soldiers had their families and there were civilians around. And here we have Vibia and her husband, Flavius, who are really interesting because on every posting, they would put up an altar stone with both their names. Flavius was the commander at Westerwood, and his wife followed him around Europe. So this is one of the interesting stories where you can follow someone around. Aelius was a civilian at Caridon, so on the Bowness side of the wall. Aurelia was we know that she scratched in her name on Séverine, where Verecunda, we don't know exactly who she was, but she has a gravestone that was found near Bar Hill. We decided to show her as a child, but we know that experts not exactly, they don't really know what position she had. And Ebutius was a Syrian archer who engraved his name on a hammerhead. Other people, again, more civilian, Salmanus and his son traveled all the way from Syria. We think they were traders. Salmanus Jr. sadly died on the wall, but again, it shows how diverse the population was. Materna scribbled her name on the Samian ware pottery, and we found the potter's mark on the same chart. So we can link her to Senamus, who was a very renowned potter in Gaul. So I like to think that Salmanus, when traveling up to the Antonine Wall, picked up the pottery up at in Gaul at Senamus's workshop and sold it at Mural's to Materna. It's just 20 years, so it's actually possible, but it shows the links, and we can use those faces when we go to an exhibition and we see pottery charts. It makes them alive in a way. So those have helped, and all these figures are now in all our outreach documentation and in the touring exhibition that I will show you later. That was an idea from community groups, from the public when they came to speak to us. And I think it's an amazing addition to all the material that we have. And we were also quite often asked about the locals. As one young girl told me, you only speak about the Romans, but those were the bad guys. Why are you not speaking about the people who lived there? Sadly, we don't have much about the Iron Age people of the time, but we decided to have them there with all the other characters. So we have our Iron Age chief and his lady, and the tartan is designed on the Falkirk hoard, so the bit of tartan that was found there. So here's a representation of our locals, and of course we would love to know more about them, but that's probably for another time. Now, I've been speaking about the outreach material, and here is some. That's the wonderful snake and ladder game that was developed for our exhibition. And I should be able, in the past few months, our amazing new education officer should work. It did work. So you'll find that on our website on the blog. So we created a lot of outreach documents, especially for children, but they will be used in a diversity of outreach occasions, and probably also as English as a second language for one of our other projects. So we have the classic coloring in sheets, and then we have a passport. So that is to get kids to go to the Antonine Wall, and they can download this. It's like a real passport with a map of all the sites they can go to, with all the information, and then they can have a little logbook with, you see the weather, favorite part, drawings, and you have the museums and all the interesting bits and pieces you can see, and we will encourage them to share that with us on social media. We're currently making one especially for the museum visit, so the touring exhibition that can be used for kids and for schools coming in. And we have here several, so if you want to have a look and download them, we have games, we have word searches, and really interactive activities for children or young at heart people, because they're quite fun and interesting. I'll go back. So I've been speaking a lot about our touring exhibition. Here it is. It's currently in Perth Museum and Art Gallery until the beginning of February, and it will move then to the Old Kirk Museum in Kirkintilloch. So we hope that you'll come and visit. That exhibition was created in a way that local museums can pick and choose what they want. So they don't have to take in the entire exhibition. It is, so we have replica objects. So it's not like we are putting in the real object. So it's quite easy to move. It was also cheaper to make. And we have 9 stations, and each station has a big panel like that, a replica objects, and interactive. So it's very easy to move, and the different stations are the Romans in Scotland building the Antonine Wall, and for that we have a big interactive of a fake wall made out of big blocks that kids can just play around with and build themselves. Trade and transport, and here we have a replica of one of the barrels, and for that one we worked with the apprentices at the cooperage at Diageo here in Alloa. So this was one of our aims, to engage with local businesses, local communities, and help young people so to develop new skills. So those were the apprentices who did that. Then we have food and family, image and identity, off duty, and the board game, you can actually see it here. This was made by the stonemasonry students at Glasgow City College. Occupation and exchange, beyond the wall, Antonine Wall today. And here for occupation and exchange, we have recreated the Falkirk tartan. So we can show it, and we have the piece of cloth of how it would probably have looked like. We also have big cutout people for people to take their pictures with some of our characters. It is many games, very interactive, and community museums can really pick and choose what they want to. So it's moving to Kirkintilloch in a few weeks, and we don't know yet where it's going next, but we'll keep you posted. Engaging with young people. So you've heard about our play parks. 3 of them are ready and have already people coming and see them. 1 is almost finished, and the last one should start construction in the next few weeks, hopefully. All of the play parks are a bit different. So at the top here, you have Old Peel Park Play Park in Kirkintilloch. That's a more classic play park with a lot of activities. We have sound posts with Marcus talking. And down here, you have the one at Golden Hill Park. That's in Western Bartonshire, It's a bit more open to imagination, and probably geared toward also older children. Every play park is adapted to children with disabilities, so there are equipment there for all of them. It's been quite a success. The one in Falkirk, Kirkintilloch and Golden Hill, we always see kids playing around, and they're really appreciated. And once they're all open, we'll have a trail of all the play parks, and we hope that kids can then get their parents to visit all of them. Another thing we're doing to engage young people is work with Magic Torch Comics. And our first workshops are next week, so it is very exciting. Magic Torch is going to create comic strips with 5 primary schools. So each primary school will have 4 pages, will develop a storyline around the wall, and then an artist will create a comic around it. And in June, we'll have a booklet with all the 5 short stories that the children can take home and people can download. We're also working with a secondary school, and those kids will create an entire comic book, so 28 pages. This should be really interesting. I know there's already been one done in Falkirk and in several other heritage sites. So look out for that one. We'll publish it on social media, and hopefully we'll even have pictures of the students doing the work. And our last young people project is the mural. So here we are working with Recode, and you have an example of what they do in the middle. This is actually part of our exhibition. So in every local authority, there will be a big mural inspired by the Antonine Wall. And Recode works with youth groups in each authority to get inspiration for the wall. So they have workshops where they learn how to spray paint, and then what object of the wall do they relate most. And then this inspiration goes to an artist, a different one for each authority, and it will create a mural. So we'll then have a launch event for all the 5 murals, and hopefully get youth groups from different areas come and visit the others and maybe create exchanges. So vastly different areas will be able to meet up. So the wall is going to create a link between youth groups and children from very, very different backgrounds. So again, it unites people. The next big project is with New Scots, refugees and asylum seekers. And again, very exciting times. I had the first meeting with one of the refugee groups this morning. So this is starting in the next few weeks. We're working with refugees and asylum seekers in 5 local authorities again, and the aim is for them to share their stories, explore diversity and richness of narratives in Roman times and today. As you've seen, the wall was the Roman Empire, covered all the Mediterranean area, and so we do have people now who are coming to Scotland, probably not realizing that 2000 years ago we already had quite a diverse population on the Antonine Wall. So again, this is to bring communities together, and also would like to develop ESOL resources using the Antonine Wall and heritage in general as a link between people. As we say, the wall that once divided now unites, and that the idea is showing that there is already something for them. And the interesting thing today, when I was walking in Falkirk with the person from the refugee group, the hotel where the asylum seekers in Falkirk are right now is exactly on the Antonine Wall. So it's just perfect. And we're really excited about that one. So again, stay tuned, and in the next few months, there should be a lot of information. Now, our local communities are already very engaged. So we've been working with them, and 2 of the projects are finished. One in Bonny Bridge, so that's this nice sculpture. And this sculpture shows the links between the Roman past and the industrial past of Bonnybridge, metalworking and brick making. So it's really nice. It's a really nice sculpture that was designed by the group and then placed just next to Rough Castle. And we worked with the Hidden Heritage Group in Bo'ness to create this sculpture that is just at the entrance of Kinnaird Estate and is a replica of the horse harness strap that was found on the site. So again, a very striking sculpture just at the entrance of Kinnaird Estate and just next to the wall, because actually if you see the sculpture, the wall is just to the left of it. And another project that is almost finished is Bearsden Baptist Church. So on the other side of the bathhouse, the community is creating a Roman garden. And that's also a project that has changed quite a lot over the past 2 years and adapted. So here we have the mosaic that they have created, and it's inspired by the flowers and fruits that were found in the remains of the bathhouse. We have also created a sound cloud. So here on the bottom picture, you see our recording day in January 2020. And here you actually see David Breeze and Trisha Weeks working with the community group to create little dialogues. So I'm going to get you to listen to one, if you can hear it. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Okay. I can't get it to the point I wanted it, but if you come to visit Bearsden, you will hear little snippets of people talking, and you might recognize David or Trisha or myself arguing about nettles and the cures for colds and the view of Bar Hill Fort compared to the one of Bearsden Fort. The sound cloud is in this wooded area, so you go through and you hear it, and then the part behind where the granary was is about to be landscaped into a more Roman style garden. We hope that the opening will be by the end of March. So again, look at our website. If you are in the area, you'll be very welcome to come and see what the community group there has done. Other projects that are coming up very soon, Arboretum in Old Kilpatrick. There are projects coming up in Glasgow, Bishopbriggs and Twecker. Cycling Without Age, we have tri-shows that one is almost ready to go in Bo'ness, another one in Ochenstarry. So we are looking for pilots. If anyone here is based in the Central Belt and likes to cycle, please contact them. They're looking for people to drive the tri-shows. They're all electric, so it's not too hard, and to take people along to the sites. We're also very proud that the Antonine Wall is part of Scotland's UNESCO Trail, and Sylvanus, one of our projects, actually on the very nice banner that was designed by Visit Scotland. And this responds to the aim of integrating the local communities and the economy, because the idea is to make local businesses more aware of the UNESCO sites and help them use those sites also to develop themselves and welcome more visitors. And we've already seen that on the Antonine Wall, a lot of cafes and local businesses have used the fact that there is more footfall around Croy Hill, for instance, has already benefited local businesses. So this is something that the momentum will grow with the UNESCO Trail. More general public projects, the Distance Stone Trail. So we funded 5 new distance stones one here in Falkirk. So as I said before, Falkirk already had a replica of a distant stone in Bo'ness. So in Falkirk, we put a modern take on a distant stone. This one is dedicated to the volunteers and is actually the mirror image of the Bo'ness one with view from the locals' point of view. And we have a very good video on our YouTube channel explaining that. We have one in Twecker here. The last one down right is in Old Patrick, and then two of the stones have the big Roman head. So Sylvanus and Aurelius, who have been big hits. So we might in the future see other big Roman heads coming up. We've continued the guided tours, as you can see below, that actually replaced our community conference this year. Another project that actually you might be interested in participating in, even if you are on Hadrian's Wall, is our creative writing project. This is really aimed at everyone who has personal experience or memories of and along the Antonine Wall, and not just Roman history, it can be anything. And on that one, we are collaborating with Zoe Strachan at the University of Glasgow, and an anthology will be published this summer. Submission deadline is the 14th of February, and all the information is on the Rediscovering the Antonine Wall website. So please do submit if you have texts or poems or anything. A lot has been done through engaging through social media. We had this last year, the Ask Marcus series, so those little vignettes, and that was before we had new Marcus, where we answered questions that people could submit. We have done the Advent calendar, we have a YouTube channel, and we have an Instagram page. I see we're getting a bit short on time, so I'll let you go and explore our Instagram page. There's been a lot of photo sharing, so if you have pictures of the Antonine Wall, we'll share them. And I think in the next few weeks, there will be a lot of pictures of dogs on the Antonine Wall. So we're really trying to engage a lot of people to share their experience of the wall. Feedback and recognition, we're very proud to have won the Outdoor Prize from the Association for Heritage Interpretation last October. And in 2021, we were also one of the Eurocity sites to share best practices in heritage and engagement. We have little films on our YouTube channel that we did for the for Eurocity, so you can see and get more information on how we work with local community and engage with different publics. What is coming next on the Antonine Wall? So we still have a very exciting program. We're starting to work on the Walk the Wall film. This is a remake of the 1950s Walk the Wall film by Anne Robertson, where you see two people walking along the wall and just pointing out the sites. Ours will be not silent, because the original film is a silent film. Ours will have people talking. We'll be interviewing experts and community members along the wall, and showing also how the landscape has changed since the 1950s. The volunteering program should restart. There are more community projects and a lot of surprises, so please stay tuned. Follow us on social media, and hopefully you can also engage, and we hope that you will come and visit. And that is me. So here are the, thank you so much for listening. And I see that I've talked quite a long time. Here are our two websites, and on rediscoveringtheantoninewall.org, you also have a map of the different projects. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and just reach out whenever you have questions, and we'll be very happy to answer.